Today is glazing day. I've got a bunch of pots fresh out of the kiln ready to go, but I've also got a problem. My bottoms keep plucking. If you're not a potter, that sentence might sound a little odd. That's when the bottom of the pots get these little divots or cracks. They're not cracks, they're more chips in the bottom of them. I've done some research on this, and it seems that what's happening is essentially that as the clay starts to melt, little pieces of it can stick to the kiln shelf. It's a little bit like when glaze sticks to the kiln shelf, except that there's no way to keep your bottom off of the kiln shelf. It has to be there. So there are various methods for trying to avoid this or fix this. The one that I'm going to try today is to mix some alumina hydrate with some wax. The idea behind this fix is that the alumina hydrate stays suspended in the wax. The wax helps to keep it on the bottom of your pot. And then once the wax burns off, you have a layer of this refractory material, which will not melt in the kiln, kind of buffering the bottom of your pot from the kiln shelf. And then it shouldn't pluck because it's not going to be able to stick to the kiln shelf. Let's give it a try. We have alumina hydrate here. I've just put it in this container because it came in a plastic bag or a paper bag or something. Anyway, this seemed like a better idea. And I have my usual wax. And I have my sequestered waxing brush and a little bowl for pouring the wax out into. I keep these sequestered because wax and plaster are the two worst things in your studio. If you get wax somewhere that you do not want it to be, then you're going to end up with a glaze disaster. If you get plaster somewhere you don't want it to be, then it's going to explode in the kiln. And I actually just had to throw out a pot that I made just a couple of days ago because it turned out to have some plaster bits in it. So be careful in your studio with both of these things. Okay, I'm just going to mix up a little bit of this because I'm not really sure how it's going to work. And I don't want a whole bunch of this if it turns out to just be kind of useless. I'm also not really sure how much alumina hydrate to put in for the amount of wax. So we're just going to take a guess at it. And the nice thing about recording this is that I can come back later and see what I did. This bottle has a lovely little pour spout that immediately got gummed up with wax. So I just take the top off. I never need as much wax as I think I'm going to. So maybe a little more. This isn't really the best brush for waxing in terms of, the size of it and the shape of it. It's just a little one, I don't know, that I picked, and now it's got wax on it. So I'm stuck with it, and I don't, shoot. Okay, so this is where I need a better dish, I think, one that holds the brush better. This is where it gets dangerous in the studio. So that just fell, and it got a teeny tiny little bit of wax on the table. But if that wax then touches a pot in a place where I don't want wax, I have a problem. I'm going to have a little spot on my finished piece with no glaze. Some wax, how much? This much. And then I'm going to put in, I think I'm just going to put some in and mix it up until it seems like it probably can't hold anymore. I don't know, we're learning together here. All right, it still seems pretty waxy. The idea with this is that when the wax burns off, you're going to be left with a layer of alumina hydrate, which won't melt at cone 6 temperatures. And that layer kind of acts as a buffer between the kiln shelf and your piece. And in theory, keeps it from sticking. Really, I have no idea how much of this to use. I feel like we might be getting close here. Okay, I can kind of see, I don't know if you can see this on the screen or not, but I can see and feel that when I'm doing this, there's a layer of bumpiness that's stuck on the bottom. And that would be the alumina hydrate. So I'm going to say this was enough, and we are going to find out if I am right or crazy. Let's start with something pretty straightforward. I can feel the grittiness of this, which I think is good. You can also tell that this is not centered, which is probably not good. Doesn't really matter right now, but doing this outside bit, it's gonna matter. There's definitely a decent amount of alumina hydrate in here, because I can feel it and you can actually see it. Still a relatively new potter, and a lot of my stuff really doesn't get centered quite perfectly. So if you are also having issues with that, it's okay. Maybe we can form a support group together. The trick with wax is making sure that it doesn't drip. And I'd actually thought about just doing away with it altogether and just wiping the bottoms of my pieces. But then this alumina hydrate hack came my way, so we're going to give it a try and see if it helps. Now you could, I suppose, just put alumina hydrate on the shelf. Loose. Well, that might be an option. This one is dried. And it's definitely gritty there at the bottom. So fingers crossed. have some rubbing alcohol and some good old Q-tips. See if we can clean up that little wax part that I don't actually want wax on. Let's see. Aziz, light. Oh, still looks kind of waxy there. When I'm working with wax in the studio, or technically in the garage, I don't use sponges, I use paper towels, because if you reuse that sponge on something else, then you have wax in a place that you don't want it to be. I am running out of wax to make some more. Glaze to properly dip any of these. So I'm going to try putting the body in first, and then I'll flip it around and put the handle in. And this one needs quite a dunking. I don't know why, but it just seems to need to be in here for a long time. Wiped off nicely, actually, very nicely. What do you think, Indy? Do they pass inspection? Oh, this one had the alumina hydrate on it. It's kind of, you can see that, kind of powdery now. The wax is burnt off. So I have a couple of pieces out of the kiln that I use the alumina hydrate on. And here's what I've learned so far. I have learned that it does indeed work to keep the pots from plucking. There's no plucking here at all. It's a little bit messy. There's a little bit of dust residue when it comes out of the kiln. And I was super careful with that to make sure it didn't get mixed up with anything that would touch glaze or raw clay. Because as you can see, when it does get in the glaze, you get some unpleasant to me. It kind of feels like sandpaper. And what happened here was that because the alumina hydrate wax was right up to the top and there was a little bit of overlap here, the alumina hydrate has gotten melted into the wax. So I'm going to need to try and sand this off. It's also got a little bit of a crawl here. So it's something that, we're going to be keeping at home, or maybe, a friend will want it or whatever, but this isn't going to be a for sale piece. But really important data to know that maybe in the future, what I'll do is use regular wax up here and just put the alumina hydrate on the pieces that are going to touch the shelf. And this is another piece, and it also, you can see, has got a little bit in, but I think this one's going to be fine once it's sanded. So we'll just do a little light sanding around there, and I think that'll be good to go. And this one turned out super cute. Very pleased with this cup. So there you have it. Preliminary results are that the alumina hydrate does indeed do the job. Leaves a little bit of mess in your kiln afterwards, but nothing crazy. But you want to be super, super careful that you don't mix the glaze and the alumina hydrate in the same place. If you try this, I would love to hear how it works out for you. If you have other tips on how to do this, anything that you've found that works really well, I would also love to hear about that. I love learning from other potters. One of the really great things about our community is that we're so willing to share. Thanks for watching.